Hey guys, Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots on the ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with Soul Family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Aloha! Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A quick announcement before we get started. Our Hawaii conference is coming up in April of next year. If you're interested in joining us on the Big Island for a vacation/conference/retreat, you can find all that information at journeytotruth.online. Get your ticket now. Tickets are very limited. And if you want your spot, I would get that locked in, preferably before the end of the year. It's a big trip and it takes a lot of planning. So we would love to see you there. So today's guest is Michael Selig. He is a decorated Marine jet attack pilot, Netflix, Showtime filmmaker, and author of the international best-selling psychological thriller Hush, which Hush is something we're going to talk about today. And basically, Hush blends real-world ops insight with pulse-pounding fiction to explore alien manipulation, deep state deception, and mind control, and why so many impossible events manage to hide in plain sight. So obviously, that's the tagline, but I definitely want to get into the alien manipulation, the deep state deception, and mind control, because that is actually, that's the war. That's the battle we're all fighting right now. And like, it's very hard to navigate that arena. And I'm just happy to have you here on the show and talk about this. So thanks for being here.
I'm honored to be here, Tyler and Aaron. This is great.
Yeah. So first of all, and we're honored to have you. And tell us a little bit about your time in the military. I know you flew combat missions in Desert Storm and stuff like that. So maybe you can give us a little background before we move forward.
You bet. I got out of college in '85 at the University of Arkansas and went into flight training for the Marines. And that is basically Navy flight training. All Marines go through, Pensacola. So we're in Navy flight training school for the whole thing. So I went to Pensacola, was selected for jets, then went to Beeville, Texas for my kind of intermediate advanced jet training. I flew T-2 Buckeyes, I think was the first carrier jet that I landed on, and then A-4 Skyhawk was the advanced jet trainer. That used to be what the Blue Angels flew before they got F-18s, right?
Right.
So it was the A-4 Skyhawk, kind of one of my favorite birds. That and the F-4 were always my favorites. I love the F-18, but those older birds were kind of fun. So then I was selected to fly A-6 Intruders for the Marines, which is a all-weather attack jet. And I eventually went to Desert Storm with my squadron. We flew combat missions every night of the war. And then during that time, I was a squadron intelligence officer. And, take a quick sip. And during the combat operations, I'm reading the top secret intelligence briefs that are coming through our squadron, right? Which are worldwide briefs about kind of what's all going on in the military, but also stuff specifically for our squadron. And I'm flying combat missions, and then I'm watching CNN at the base on the southern tip of Bahrain at the same time. So it was kind of a wild experience to see like what the public was getting versus what I'm reading and then what I'm actually doing, So there you go. And then I flew for a total of 8 years and then went into filmmaking and writing and that's what I've been doing ever since. This is my first novel, but I've written screenplays for so many years. So I'm a storyteller at the base of all of it. It's all about story. I just think that's the most fun thing there is.
Right, so this book is it's a fiction book, but it's rooted in truth, right?
Yeah, so I'm a fanatical hardcore researcher. This book took 3 years, and it's basically your covert history from about the 40s all the way up past Roswell, and this is the first in a series that I'm doing. And basically, I'll take a historical event, let's just say Roswell, and I am, like I said, fanatical about research. So I make sure that if there's 20 people that have talked about they saw an alien, I research all of them. I figured out, I've tried to find out what time did they see them. If other people said they were with that person, like I'm just fanatical about trying to nail down as close as I can get to the truth. Once it feels that I have a scene happening and I'm starting to feel like, oh, I kind of have a sense of this evolution, that this person and two other people were at this crash event and they saw army guys and they were threatened and this occurred and they were a little girl and now they're older and they've told the same story. If it's in hush, I may have a fictional character and I may not. If it's James Forrestal, it's James Forrestal. If it's Ike, it's Ike. But it's me in his shoes trying to understand what it feels like to see his first live or dead alien. But the facts around where he moves, where his convoy goes, where the crash wreckage is, what kind of alien it is, what was the alien wearing, all of that is as hard as I can get to the truth, or I should say as close as I can get to the truth.
Right. Yeah, and going back to what you said about being, you know, overseas and being, flying these combat jets and seeing what CNN was saying, like, that dichotomy had to be very interesting.
Mhm.
And let's so
Yeah.
I'd like to explore a little bit, like, what were you seeing that
Sure.
was were you seeing outright, like, blatant lies being put out by the media or
No, I don't think it's like that. I mean, the one thing I will say is it feels directed from the very top, so that it's not necessarily, I would say it's not even necessarily the the strategy of the US government. And I think you guys know that I'm a firm believer that there's a cabal, a small group of individuals that are above all governments that literally run the planet. And they can manipulate any government, including ours. They have participants within our government that get paid well to keep their mouths shut, and they hand out military contracts worldwide for special access programs and what we call USAPs, which is unspecified special access programs or unacknowledged special access programs. And those military contracts are all having to do with alien related technologies. But I say that coming back to your question of what were you seeing in the media while you're flying combat missions? It is different. What I'm doing during the combat mission, maybe I'm attacking. So you guys were familiar with the Highway to Hell, perhaps? I don't know. 1991 might have been before your time, but
we were
the
young?
Highway to Hell was, yeah, you were young. So the very first Persian Gulf conflict, Desert Storm, was only an air war. It was 43 days long. We never went in with troops. We certainly had troops there, but by the end of 43 days, after I think 2,000 sorties that were being flown per day. So
Wow.
think B-52s, attack jets like my jet, every kind of aircraft you can imagine was over Iraq, 2,000 sorties per 24 hours
Wow.
for 43 days. So when you say all of the oil wells were burning, all the bridges were destroyed, just everything was flattened. Yeah, that's
Wow.
what that was. And so what the media is putting out is maybe they're showing, a bridge being destroyed here and there, but meanwhile we're bombing tanks and stuff moving south toward Bahrain, and that becomes what's called the Highway to Hell, which is basically just a mass of traffic. Just imagine maybe I don't know, let's say 1,000 yards wide of military vehicles traveling, tanks, anti-aircraft batteries, troop transports, just, towed artillery, everything you can imagine. They're moving south, and we attack the front of it. Well, once it's stopped, it's just kind of unfortunately, it's a brutal graveyard after that. It just, it just gets pounded.
Right.
And
Right.
so that becomes the famous highway to hell that the media eventually picks up on later. But what I'm watching on CNN during that time, when the highway to hell is physically happening, is, we'll see a bridge blown up or this, that, and the other. And the troop movements were certainly not necessarily accurate to what was occurring. And so I kind of got the impression like, well, it doesn't feel like the military is directing this. And I also had the impression from reading the top secret briefs, I just had a sense, all I can say is I had a sense that there was a level above it all and a strategy above it all that I couldn't figure out at the time. I just knew a lot of times I just go with my intuition, with my gut.
Right.
And my gut was telling me there is a parallel strategy happening here that is not in line with my top secret briefs and not in line with what we're being told. It's there. Sodom could have nuclear weapons and this, that, and the other. And I was confused, but I'm just doing my job. I'm a pilot. I love being an American, and we don't always do the right things, but I was into being a pilot and doing what I was supposed to do, and I didn't question much at the time, but I knew something was not on the level. I just knew it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's obviously something pulling the strings behind that, and whatever that motive is, I guess that's what your research, that's the path you went down, right? You were trying to figure out,
Right.
who's behind this, and then you inevitably came to the conclusion that, there's mind control happening here, mass mind control, in fact. And
Right.
I know it's something you cover in your book, and maybe you can explain how the psychology of that mind control can actually, why smart people can miss, these truths.
Right. So my experience is, and this is the funniest thing, the smarter you are, the harder you fall. And it has been, for me at least, it's been 3 years of, what do you say? Like, you have to go through the 5 stages of grief, where you realize, wow, I have been completely hoodwinked. I'm 62 for my entire life. I'm convinced there's no Roswell. There's no aliens. I'm just saying where I was a few years ago.
Right.
And then as my research got deeper and deeper, and then I realized, oh my. So then once you start to realize the actual current state of affairs, that there's a secret space program that's not just Navy, it's Air Force, there's a dark fleet. Once you start to realize what is in hush, which is a fun story. I encourage anybody, if you just want to escape your life and have some fun. The story is intense and it's fun, but what you'll read about is some pretty hardcore stuff that may be your actual reality right now.
And we're in the process of filming a very ambitious project that's on the secret space program, a documentary, and it's set to release in January. And we're covering it from a very level-headed perspective, interviewing military people and stuff that people who have been directly involved, and not just these hearsay stories, right? So we're trying, and a whole paper trail of history that you can't ignore. Once you start looking into it, you find more and more, and instead of less and less. So that's kind of where we understand that, and I appreciate that you're coming at it from that angle too, because I think inevitably, if you set all your bias aside and start researching this stuff, you come to these conclusions like, okay, I just don't know anymore. Like there's something far beyond what we're being told here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's and then you start to realize that, well, God, if I'm just now figuring it out and I'm starting to understand the secret space program, and then you realize, oh, we were off-world secret space program. Most of these folks, Tony Rodriguez, Rebecca Rose, who I'm sure you guys are probably starting to interview. They're
good friends with both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in the book. I mean, to some extent in the book. You start to realize, well, okay, damn, if they're in space in the 80s, just think about this now. Where did the prep start for America, just for America, not the rest of the ICC, the interplanetary corporate conglomerate that's out there, just America. Where did it start with aliens? And how deep is it now, 70 years later, these contractual obligations with malevolent alien groups? How did we get off world? And once you start to realize that process and you realize, oh my God, for us to be flying in space with these secret space program personnel that you're now interviewing in the 80s, that process started in the late 40s, early 50s. For us to build a ship,
Right.
to figure it out, who did we do a contract with? How did we learn anti-gravity? How did we figure out how to put a nuclear reactor on a ship to create a gravity envelope around it so it's anti-gravity?
Right.
You start to do that, and you start to realize, okay, dang, I didn't even believe there's aliens. I didn't believe that Roswell ever happened. I didn't believe. I was like, there's no way we're off world. That's when I'm in high school. We're off world, and Tony Rodriguez and Rebecca Rose she's working for the reptilians, and he's on Ceres. He's on a planet for the Nazis, for the Dark Fleet. And so that's what was occurring to me. When I say the 5 stages of grief, I'm like, okay, damn, I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm pretty darn smart. I'll hang with most people, not physicists, but you know what I mean? I
Right.
can hang in there. I get it. But I've been totally taken.
Right.
And that's,
Right.
and so you have to go through the like, well,
Well-
shit, what else don't I know? Excuse my language. What else don't I know? Right.
Exactly. And that's where the ego, where our ego likes to think we have it pretty much all figured out. And that's the trap, right? Because then you just block yourself from any other possibilities. And that's exactly where the system wants you. And then they can just program your ego constantly. Here's the truth. Don't question it. Don't bother looking anywhere else because you already know. And
so there's your mind control.
how it works.
Exactly. There's your mind control answer, right? It's like, it's so complex, but yet it's so pristine. They are pristine in the way they hoodwink us.
Right.
They play both sides of the battle. They'll say, hey, we're going to give you all this UAP information. And then we're going to have a few other people say there's no such thing as aliens. And you just keep spinning and you never get anything. It's just all what I call limited hangout. You're not, the congressional hearings, all of that. None of it is. There's nothing substantial coming. The cabal doesn't have any incentive to have, Lockheed Martin or anyone else come forward and go, here's the museum we never opened to you guys, and these are all the ships we worked. Why would they?
Why would they do
that?
Well,
they have no incentive.
And they have to, at the end of the day, too, that means they have to look in the mirror and tell the public, that they've been lying to. They've been lying. They're not going to tell them themselves.
All the incriminating stuff against them. Why would they do that?
Right.
And just think about it. You're a multinational company. You're worldwide and you're off-world. You're not. You could care less about the American public or the German public or any public, right? You have conglomerate companies working under you all over the planet and underneath the planet, like deep underground military bases.
Right.
It's so far beyond saying, oh, we made a little mistake. And I think what the really great thing about shows like yours is now it's coming to the forefront that people are starting to realize this is just our government. I mean, I love our government. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about America. I think we do the right thing. We try to do the right thing. Yeah, we make mistakes. I'm still hardcore. Like, the spirit of our country is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hamilton, Washington, they set it up correctly. The awesome women who have come through all the years. I'm just saying that we have the super right intent. But this group is not, it is above our government. It's above all governments.
Right.
And they work our government as they work other governments. So what people were aiming for is, I think that, like with shows like yours, where you're starting to let people know, like, look, congressional hearings and all that, it's fluff. You can go there and watch it. There's nothing's going to come out of that.
Yeah.
It's a dog and pony show.
It's a dog and pony show because the cabal wants to keep you spinning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that just keeps you not doing what your show is doing, which is saying, let's look a different direction. Let's talk about this small group that is completely nefarious, has alien traded technologies and sixth generational weapons that they shouldn't have without congressional and presidential control or some control from the general public, but they have it and they've had it
Yeah,
and they're not letting it go. Right.
yeah, and then
Exactly.
the entire premise of the shadow government is to bypass any congressional oversight, so they can develop these
Right.
technologies in the private sector, in these private corporations and shell corporations and whatever it looks like. That's all. I mean, that's all done very strategically, so they don't have to go through Congress to get
No
approval.
accountability
No accountability,
whatsoever.
or they don't have to get permission for the funding, and then you get
Right.
into the money and where that money is being funneled and how it's being obtained, and that's a whole other conversation. But if you follow that money, it leads you to some companies that are very suspicious and definitely involved.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And think about this. So the CIA bought Area 51, I believe, in 1952. They bought the whole area. And then
Hmm.
how do they go rogue with it? Well, let's just figure out, what is the president clear to? He's clear to, okay, top secret level 17. So let's make the only folks that can go on to Area 51 are top secret 18 and above.
Exactly.
So they completely go rogue with the facility. Now remember, in my opinion, the CIA is basically does all the dirty work for the cabal. They provide all the spies, assassins, whatever the cabal needs for something to happen worldwide. And as I mentioned in Hush, you'll see MH370 is part of that. So the hijacking of MH370 had to do with alien traded technologies and
yeah,
semiconductor technology, which relates to alien traded technologies and how they work. So if you think about plasma technology, plasmoid technology, plasma balls, those that type of alien traded technology needs semiconductors for it to work in linear real time. It's machine learning in real time. So when those balls are spinning around that jet that's traveling at 400 miles an hour, a human can't do the computations for those plasmoids to keep up with that jet, but semiconductors can.
right.
And China thought it was going to get those semiconductors with their 20 engineers who were defecting. And the cabal said, "We're going to show you who's the big daddy."
And then
China is the one element the cabal has trouble with because it's a different language. It's the one country that they don't that isn't really a player for them. So they like to kind of lash out once in a while and go, "We're going to still show you who's the big dog." But I'm just saying that all of the disclosure that's coming shows webisodes, everybody talking about disclosure. I think everyone's starting to understand we need to point our energy not toward Congress, not
right,
toward it's not the American government that's deceiving you. There are elements within the American government that work for the cabal that will
Right.
say the sound bites they're supposed to say, but you have to realize this is a group that controls all governments.
right.
Yeah.
Obviously, a little bit not the Chinese, but that's who you need to go after. That's who we need to go after, and just keep
Right.
talking about them. And there's going to be enough of an uproar at some point where some of the individuals from the cabal will step forward because that's already starting to happen.
Yeah.
And
I think it's already happening.
Mhm.
Yeah, their downfall and the exposure and
Yep.
everything else is
Yeah.
happening. Thank
and
God. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I do find it interesting because every day there's some new whistleblower in some capacity about something. It doesn't even have to be a space program.
Right.
There's this guy who just came out, Jordan something, about a psionic program that he was a part of as a child, and he was pulled out of school. And there's a very credible testimony. I just listened to it, but it has nothing to do with the space program, but it's an entirely different, secret program. And that's just one, and then he's just one person. But there's more and more people. He had enough. He's been waiting to talk, and he was waiting for Congress to give him approval, and they weren't. And they kept giving him, dangling the carrot. So he just came forward on his own. And enough people
Yep.
are doing that now. I think we're in a safe place.
Yep.
But then there's patterns of secrecy to recognize, and And how do you recognize those patterns? And how do you identify these cabal players whenever you're doing your research and looking at the world stage?
Mhm. Mhm. Are you asking me a
Yeah,
question
yeah,
on
I'm asking you
how
there.
do I identify them?
Yeah.
So, if I had to say right now, can I identify a person in the cabal? I have some ideas that I don't wanna say their names, but I can't firmly identify a cabal player. As you know, when you do research and you do research and you do research, the same individuals keep popping up, right? And you're kind of like, okay, well, certainly that person has something to do with it. I don't know if it's necessary right now to identify an individual in the cabal, because you could never confirm it, so you would just be saying it, right?
Mhm.
I think what's more important is to understand what we talked about a minute ago, that you've got to direct your energy and your verve for finding out what's happening around you and understanding what maybe your actual reality is. Anti-gravity ships throughout the planet, underneath the oceans, going off world daily, not just the TR-3B. We have many more ships that depart from Diego Garcia and several other deep underground military bases, underwater bases. There's a reason we have a national underwater reconnaissance offices, not just the National Reconnaissance Office. So think about this. We only had the National Reconnaissance Office in the 50s because we're freaking out about aliens invading our airspace, right? And we were saying, oh, it's only because of our local enemies and satellites and things. No, it had everything to do with the aliens they were pell-mell wherever they wanted to go. So we formed the National Reconnaissance Office. They
Right.
are the super spooks who would confront you after an alien sighting and shut up or you might suicide, right?
Right.
But now, not too long after that, we get an underwater National Reconnaissance Office. Now, what would we need that for? Just think about it.
Right.
Submarines trying to attack America? No, not really. We kind of knew about submarines since the 40s, right? But a National Underwater Reconnaissance Office is because submarines on their radars were watching above Mach velocity blips go by underwater. Now let's just think about that for a second. And they're just like, okay, we didn't just see that. That wasn't okay. That went by. Okay, that's showing above Mach speed underwater. So if you think about primitive human physics, that can't possibly happen. There's no tensile strength on any aircraft that we have that can be underneath the water at above Mach velocities. However, one alternative might be that we actually have anti-gravity ships, not just us, but clearly the aliens. Well, if you got a gravity bubble around a ship, it doesn't matter whether you hit the water at 1 mile an hour or Mach 6. There's no effect on the pilots. They don't feel squat. There's no effect. They're in a gravity bubble. They are not affected by the forces of gravity of the planet, of any planet.
Right.
They're warping
Right.
space-time.
Right.
So underneath the water makes no difference. Mach speeds below and above the water. That's why you see that UAP from like 3 or 4 years ago. Remember the Navy pilots?
Mhm.
And they're watching it, and then it goes submerged, and it's still traveling at Mach speeds, and then it pops back up. That only occurs if you have a gravity bubble. Well,
Right.
we learned about that in the 50s. We developed it in the 60s, and our space program is out there in the 80s with that technology.
Now,
Yeah.
the big question is, and we kind of understand this ourselves, but maybe for the audience, how do they keep something? How do they hide something in plain sight? How do they keep it hidden this entire time? And like I said earlier, there's patterns of secrecy to recognize. Like, how can you help somebody recognize that who's researching? And what are your thoughts? How have they maintained this secrecy the whole time?
Right. So that's the big $1 million question. And I can only tell you my experience, and I think this flows for kind of everybody. So we were told that Roswell didn't happen, but we were also told, there was clearly a day, July 8th, 1947, where it came out in the paper that, hey, we recovered a flying saucer. And then the next day it's totally debunked. But that information flows forward. Our parents are getting it. Everybody else is getting it. And essentially, when they play both sides of the game, where they're like, "Well, there might be aliens. There's no way there's aliens." Anybody who says that is crazy. Well, what that does is that sets a milieu, or it sets an environment that nobody wants to be called crazy.
Right.
And because the ones who actually see these ships and actually see these aliens are physically threatened, and their families are threatened, and they mean it. People have there's wherever there's a crash recovery, when people don't cooperate with the NRO or whoever confronts them, those individuals either commit suicide, so death by suicide, right? They throw themselves off a bridge. They hang themselves. They get they shoot themselves in the head. Of course, that's not what's really happening. It's death by suicide. You're
Right.
seeing it in all of the early crash recoveries, including Roswell, including Cape Girardeau, where upstanding citizens are suddenly offing themselves because they wanted to tell the truth, and they wouldn't shut up about it. And suddenly, you've got 6 deaths in Cape Girardeau of upstanding citizens who just wanted to talk about the 3 little men that came to town.
Right.
So when you mix that with, oh, alien, you're crazy if you think there's aliens, and then you mix it with a current physicist who says those velocities are impossible, that's why there can't be aliens. The velocities those ships are doing, no, what you're saying that this ship did, there's no way. That's not physically possible in human science.
Right.
Right. Within a
So then
certain paradigm. That's
exactly.
all it means.
So then you've got this environment where it's so easy to discredit somebody that even to this day, so I'll use Ashton Forbes as an example. You guys know he's been covering the MH370 plasmoid thing forever.
Tirelessly.
Those are real.
Yeah.
Those are real videos.
Yeah,
Those
I
are
believe.
videos of a plasmoid teleportation. That technology has been in the cabal hands since the 60s. Now they have semiconductors to do more fun things with it, like teleport a moving object like a jet. Before that, they could teleport. It's just semiconductors that came out right about 2000 when semiconductor technology really jumped up. Now that benefits them because they've got machine learning in real time that can do stuff billions of times faster than a human brain can, and they can do things with it by 2014 that they could have never done right at 2000. They could have not teleported a jet. They could have teleported a stationary object, but they've had plasmoid technology since the 60s.
How do you think?
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Finish, please.
I was only going to say that if you ask any scientist, even today, and I've got a buddy who's a PhD, I've just got people around me who are just brilliant. And they're like, dude, that is not, plasmoid technology is lifetimes away. And I'm like, it is, if you're just using primitive human technology. But if I take an iPhone to a dude in the 1800s and I go, hey, dude, you can use this, and I'm going to give one to your friend here, and she can walk over there, and you guys are going to be able to talk to each other. And he's a scientist in 1800, the best. Let's say he's Tesla level. He's going to go, no, it's not possible.
Right.
But if I hand it to him and I show him how it works, he might not know how it works, but he's going to go, damn, this works.
Right.
Now, if I ramp it up to, let's just say 1947, and we've got our best scientists, Einstein, Oppenheimer, and all those guys, and Oppenheimer's involved, and Einstein's involved, and Carl Sagan is involved. All of them are involved. And they're being told, shut up, don't talk about the alien interactions you're having, or you'll lose all funding and we will make you disappear. So you keep your mouth shut and you continue to interact with aliens and alien technology. Even those guys, Oppenheimer is sitting by a crash saucer at Roswell, just delighted out of his mind, but also going, okay, this thing is carbon dated at 10,000 years old. It has no rivets, no seams. It's molded like wax. It has no right angles. And it just came here silently at Mach speeds and then can vanish into space and then come back. Okay.
Right.
I know it works. I don't know how it works. That's what I try to tell. That's what I want to give to physicists here who get on shows and like, that's physically not possible. I'm like, it is not. for human primitive science. It
And
is possible and has been in the multiverse. Yeah.
and there's something to keep in mind here to take note of is that our top physicists and scientists aren't known. They've been grabbed by the black projects. And there's a man by the name of Patrick Riley. He's a 16-year combat veteran. He talks about this in great detail, how some of these top scientists are even blackmailed and they're brought in on these projects to develop and work on these advanced technologies. And they know that it's possible. At this point, it is humanly possible because we're doing it. Obviously, it may have came from extraterrestrials, but now we're obviously taking that ball and running with it. But these guys, the top scientists and physicists that are out there in the public eye, aren't necessarily the top because the top ones have already been grabbed and read into these programs. And we have to remember that. Not saying these other guys aren't brilliant people, but they're working with an old set of data. And then even now, just in physics journals and stuff that have been coming out, I've noticed articles, literally people within that realm are demanding, are starting to question things and saying physics needs to be reworked. We need to rethink, go back to the drawing board with this model that we've been using forever, because it's just not explaining the things that are happening in our reality anymore. And I think that's important to understand that there are guys that are aware of this, but we're not going to know who they are because they've been blackmailed into silence.
Yeah, and don't forget too, there's kind of two sides to that coin. I think so you guys are familiar with Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
I can promise you he was a physicist at Los Alamos. I can promise you that he was sent to EG&G from the father of the hydrogen bomb, Edward Teller, who saw Bob's jet car at 18 years old on the front cover of Los Alamos Physics University magazine. It's Bob Lazar. And he's
Right.
like, oh, that's cool. And then Bob is sitting outside his lecture when he shows up, and he's like, you're the kid with you did this rocket car. He sends him to EG&G. Bob works on the sport model, as you know. He's totally debunked by the cabal. But they a lot of times, and he's an amazing physicist. In my mind, he's I mean, homage to Bob Lazar. He has gone through the ringer because of telling the truth.
Right.
But what I'll say about it is, Bob Lazar would be the first to say, I'm not the smartest scientist out there. You know, Edward Teller, I'm working with Edward Teller. He's the father of the hydrogen bomb. So they haven't pulled in the current most popular scientist. But the other thing that I will tell you that you might not know is even during Einstein's time, Einstein's working is intimately involved in the alien presence. He's helping Roosevelt. He's helping all the Truman. Oppenheimer is intimately involved, and they're heavily warned, and those are famous people.
Right.
Carl Sagan is intimately involved. He's the #1 debunker of all things alien. And I can promise you, Carl Sagan is at S4 working on the monolith in 1984 when it's brought back, or 1974, when it's brought back to Earth. It's this monolith floating in space seen by Yuri Gagarin in 1963, and whatever, 11 years later, it's brought back to Earth. It's brought to S4. And Michael Kruvant-Wolf and Carl Sagan are working on the monolith at S4. There's detained aliens there.
Yeah.
And Carl Sagan is like, there's no such thing as aliens. He didn't want his funding to be cut. He didn't want his life or his family to be threatened or hurt.
Right.
And if you know anything about his death, you'll read about it in the book.
Well,
You know, he suddenly gets a disease that is not in his family ancestry and dies kind of suddenly of something that's not in his ancestry. So
right.
same with Michael Kruvant-Wolf.
Right. So it's interesting because all the media, everyone just hears that, oh, he's such a debunker of UFOs and blah, blah, blah. That's all they push. And what they don't tell you when you actually do the research is up until that point where he flips on a dime, he was very, very interested in the subject of UFOs and the possibility that ETs are here. And he was, you could basically say, a proponent that, hey, there's something going on here. We need to look into this. We need to. All of a sudden, on a dime, he switches from that to, it's ridiculous, blah blah blah. He's the patron saint debunker.
Exactly.
Does
Aaron,
that make
and
any sense unless he was threatened and told to do
Right.
that? Right.
And you guys are familiar with Richard Dolan, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to get him.
So
for,
Richard's just the opposite, right? He's an Air Force guy. So you can say it if you want, but it all feeds down from the cabal. But he's the Air Force guy that goes to people and said, "You didn't see an alien, and there's no such thing." And he's involved with that for years. And then he does the flip when he gets out, and he says, "I'm now coming forward. I was the bad guy, and I'm telling you, there's aliens, there's ships. It's been going for since the 50s when I was in." So you not only have scientists who flip either direction, but you have bad guys who flip to be good guys and just say, "Look, I knew I was doing the wrong thing, but I had a job to do, and I was
Or
good at it, and I didn't want to die."
yeah, or
Can't
there's
blame them.
Right.
exactly, and there's another angle to come at this from too. A lot of these guys, they get recruited or brought into these programs or read in. They don't even understand what they're signing up for until it's too
Of
late.
course.
They might
Right.
not even know that
Right.
they're literally signing up for a criminal organization. They quite literally believe that they're doing the right thing, working for their country because that's why they joined the military. And it's not until they're in deep and they start looking around and start questioning things aren't adding up. By that time,
Yeah.
they're already read in and they've signed the NDA and they
Yeah.
can't talk and they've been had. So that's another angle too. And so it's not necessarily that this cabal or the people that are maintaining the secrecy, they don't always want to be in that position, but they've found themselves there by being well intentioned.
Emery Smith's interview on Gaia TV, if you guys ever watch that,
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
he goes through, he completely innocent. They're like, "You want to do some extra night work? Sure. Cool. We'll pay you a little extra. Cool. Okay." And then he's working on specimens of tissues. And he's like, "Wow, this is trippy." And they're
Right.
like, "Okay, you've done good for a year. We're going to move you to the next level." And they take him 50 floors down in Kirtland.
Right.
And he's suddenly working on with these trippy rooms on, he knows it's an alien species. And then a year later, he's working next to a 9-foot tall praying mantis who's doing the operation and he's assisting.
Right.
Now, if you watch his interviews, you realize that dude, he is so clear about everything. He's not making it up.
Right.
Right.
And you realize, okay, wait a minute. This was also in the 80s.
Yeah.
And they have
Yep.
got all kinds of aliens that they are genetically altering and they're trying to mix them with humans and dogs and buffaloes. And he talks about stuff that gets out of Kirtland and has to be destroyed, like with a tank, because it's a buffalo mixed with a friggin' alien something and it got loose. And they had to destroy it, like with it had to be targeted. It's so violent, and then again, it's like I have to go through the 5 stages of grief. I'm like, I'm just stupid. How can I
Right.
not know this? But you can't know it because it's on a secret base, and Emery can't. For the longest time, he wouldn't talk about it. But that interview with Emery, I mean, there's so many great interviews on Gaia. What's his name that was at Area 51 with his rocket? David Adair.
David
Oh
Adair.
yeah.
Watch
Love.
right? I mean,
I-
you start watching them all, and you're just like, okay, there's just too much information here. There's too many guys talking about the same things in the 80s all the way back to the 60s with David Adair. It's the same generals they're talking about that they're interacting with.
Right. Yeah. Curtis LeMay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those guys.
Curtis, exactly. So,
Right.
so after a while, you're just like, okay, I'm stupid. But then what you realize, you're not really stupid. It's just until you drive in and say, I'm going to find out everything I can, then the same names start hitting and you start to realize, okay, damn, they're great at this. They're pristine
Yeah.
at placing this right in front of us and we just can't see it.
They're-
It's amazing.
It's like you break through that smoke screen that's been designed to keep you away from all the stuff. But
Yeah.
you got to have that drive to break through in the first place. Otherwise, you're never gonna see it. And they bank on you not ever having the thought to like go past that smoke screen, right?
Yeah.
But you and all of us here have done that, and we're like, oh, it's obvious once you do that.
Right. And that's the thing, is that, people want it dropped in their lap on CNN that someone's just going to open an alien museum. And it's like, that's not happening. You're not getting it from the American government. That's not ever going to
And
occur. You're going to get
and
limited hanging out.
they've lied to us for so long that if we did get it from them, nobody's going to believe it. Because people are going to question it again. So it's like this double-edged sword, right? I mean,
Yeah,
why do you want disclosure from the very people who have been hiding it from you? And why are you going to trust
exactly.
that information?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
obviously now, like what's happening with these hearings and all this stuff is it's softball disclosure, as John Warner IV says. Like we have the hard disclosure through these whistleblowers over the years, and a massive paper trail, hundreds of thousands of books, documents, you name it. It's all there now.
Yeah.
Like, it's in our hands. So why are we still looking outside? We can do it. We can
Right.
compile this information. And yeah, maybe because I haven't been in the military or because I'm not a part of the government, it's not going to be official coming from Journey to Truth. That doesn't mean it's not true, you know? And that's what I think
Exactly.
people are just too quick to write it off and throw it to the side because it's not coming from an official source. But if you really take all of this stuff seriously that these guys have been saying for these years, disclosures happen.
And I'll tell you
It's
why
happened.
your guys' show is important. When I say you talk about the cabal and you keep talking about them, here's why it's important. It's taken many years of the cabal telling us there's no such thing as aliens for us to spin on that we're mind controlled. Your shows, if you just keep saying, nope, that's not real. What's real is everything around you, every kind of Star Wars, Star Trek. It's not only real and actual, it's everywhere in the multiverse. It's all around you, and the documentation is there. You have to be aggressive on your own. Your shows that keep talking about this, pretty soon your generation goes, oh, there's aliens. There's definitely battleships that are out there. We're in space. I might not be able to see it, but I know for a fact. And then what happens is eventually people that are in the cabal, the folks who actually twist the strings and yank and manipulate the worldwide events, there are going to be individuals who start stepping forward. I'll give you an example. Ashton Forbes got the letter from a guy in the cabal saying, Ashton, you're on the right track.
I remember that. Yeah.
That was us. Keep talking. It's the only way to bring them down. Just keep talking about them. And that's the exact angle that you show that is talking about. We know all this is real, and F off if you're going to tell us it's not. We know it's real.
Right.
We don't have to see it anymore. We've got enough document. We've got enough people talking. We've got enough people where their mind control and their mind wipe is glitching.
Right.
Rebecca Rose, Tony Rodriguez. I mean, all the whistleblowers that have come forward where their mind wipe is no longer working. It's glitched. And they're having all these memories of being cloned. We've
Yeah.
got so many now coming forward worldwide. You're not going to tell us anymore that this is not our actual reality. We're going to get it.
Yeah.
So, and that's why certain people in the cabal will just go, you know what? I may die for this, but I'm going to step forward, and they're going to name who's in the cabal.
Yeah.
It's just a function of time. You just keep talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Exactly.
and it comes with a price sometimes. Even us doing what we do at such a small level, that we receive attacks and threats from people that they're just going
yeah.
crazy, and
Sure.
and even smear campaigns that things
Smear
are just
campaigns.
completely not true, and then they're gaining traction in a life of their own, and it's like, okay, who's masterminding that? And I think that they work through people who have like these unhealed traumas and stuff sometimes, and like they use people who aren't on that path to do their dirty work,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, that's the reality of, and I always look at, if it's happening to us on such a small level, imagine what's happening to big players and politicians, and some of these things that we hear about them might not be true in any capacity.
Big
Right.
whistleblowers.
And
Black
if
Bob
Miller.
Lazar is a great example of that. They tried to they erased his records from the school he went to. They tried to do all this. Oh, look, he's debunked. This is the game they play. It's a psychological war is the main thing going on. I mean, it's a spiritual war above that, but It's a psychological war. It's the biggest, other than that aspect of it. And they try to get you to not take the topic seriously or get you to think something is debunked or there's nothing to see here. Because at the end of the day, especially now with the internet and with like you just pointed out, there's so many coming out, they can't play whack-a-mole enough to censor enough or kill off enough people, and even if they do, they realize it backfires massively, Streisand effect, all that kind of stuff when they actually do that. So they've tripled down in the last 20, 25 years. Instead of that as much, they do the psychological warfare where they do everything they can to get you to think this is all crazy, it's all liars or crazy people or people doing it for attention or people that are misinformed somehow or whatever, or just to get you away, distracted and not looking at it. They do everything they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just remember, the reason the reptilians are here, who I'm pretty convinced are behind 98% of everything that you're experiencing.
100%.
I believe there's hybrids and mainly aliens now that run the cabal because they're thinking many years in advance. They're here because of fear, because they know the intent of humans and our capacity to love is a thing that's so gigantic that when we evolve into what we're supposed to be, and that they knew that before they came here, they brought the moon with them. They brought everything they could to be like, we need to control these suckers before they explode into what they are.
Right.
So all I can say right now is, they can take out a whistleblower or they can shoot me and, silence my voice. But those of us that are coming from love, we're bringing it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And that is unstoppable.
Exactly.
Mic drop right there. Amen
Mic
to
drop.
that. Yeah. It's
exactly.
That's so
Nailed
true because with these demonic forces, they can't stand that frequency. Quite literally, they can't exist in that frequency. That's why they've terraformed this planet. And you might not believe they've terraformed this planet, but what do you think the towers are, the chemtrails, the water, the food supply? That is a form of terraforming to make it more habitable for them and more poisonous for us and mind control and all that.
Yep.
And then that brings me to the psyops, okay, let's talk about the flat earth psyop for a second. Why would that benefit the cabal to push that narrative? It totally negates and undermines any of the SSP testimonies or this entire 100-year history of UFOs and the black budget programs. Primarily, all that would be just thrown away if you're to believe that we're, trapped here in this flat plane in a bubble and space is fake,
Right.
And what are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, there's a lot of information behind that, and how do you think that's taking off like it is, unless there might be some truth to it?
I just think that as long as you do your research with your heart, this is just the decoder of the heart.
Right.
That's what I've learned. I used to think this was the king dog and that the heart was like this thing that was kind of great. But this.
Right.
And this is just the decoder of this. Right. So if you do your research and just literally feel with intuition as you're reading good accounts, bad accounts of any given person, you will know absolutely when you're reading, okay, this shit they're saying about Bob Lazar doesn't ring true to me. But when I was first reading, I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know which side of the coin I'm on here. But over time, my heart said, oh, no. He's telling the same story for 35 years. He doesn't change anything. He doesn't get paid for this. He's enduring a lot of stuff for nothing. He's telling the truth. My heart knew.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying any given vetting takes 35 years. I'm just saying all of the stuff and I'm coming back to your question of what do you think about all the stuff they're putting out and flat earth and blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, keep it simple. You guys already know, you're already on the complete right track. You already know what's out there and what you're not getting access to, which is all the stuff you're paying for. Secret space program, all of that stuff is unacknowledged special access programs, that $2.3 trillion that Donald Rumsfeld said it's unaccounted for in 2000. Catherine Fitch just said in 2025 the same thing. And she went one step further. I mean, she's got a pair, I'll tell you that. She said it's underground bases and secret stuff and spaceports. And I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a woman who just said, I don't care what happens. I'm going to say what I know. And she was trying again to say, you guys, look at where your money is going. You don't have access to these ships. You don't have access to this great technology that could benefit our world. You're paying for it.
But you're paying for it. Right.
Right.
Figure it out.
And the 6.8 trillion that went missing during COVID also.
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
all that stuff is, it's paying for everything.
And Catherine Austin Fitts I saw her make a great point on an interview where she said in the 60s, you see the money was higher going for space stuff, and then it starts going down. And it's like, well, why would it be going down when we're ramping up the Apollo missions and trying to go to the moon? Well, it's because it starts going underground, starts going black, where the black budget, the black money that you don't get to see is going up. So that's the public goes down, the black goes up, and it's been going up ever since.
Yeah.
And then, but then, a lot of it is still, it's like they have to show where these holes, like, oh, well, there's 2.3 trillion missing. We can't. And they're just like, announce it. And then 9/11 happens the next day. And then everyone forgets about it. And then they just quietly announce the 6.8 trillion during COVID. And then no one sees it. They do it in a way where it's brushed on the rug. And then no one talks about it unless you see, you're like, wait a second, what's that about? Yeah. That much money is more money than like your mind can pretty much fathom.
Right.
But we just don't know. We just don't know. And no one's looking and no one cares. It's ridiculous, But it makes perfect sense when you understand all this stuff. It's like, it's in your face, guys. It's in your face.
That's what I'm saying. You guys keep talking about it just as much as it feels like a drone on. Your listeners will start getting naturally more fed up, and they won't be looking at the government anymore.
Right. Well, and I mean,
they'll be looking for other ways to figure out what the heck is happening. And that underlying intensity is what's going to bring cabal characters forward, because they absolutely know they're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
They absolutely know. And the reason I say that is they're not necessarily human, but the ones that are human, which is very few, I would imagine, on the cabal, are completely human. People, they're going to step forward, just like you had the Ashton Forbes letter that came in. I believe that's a real person that is on the cabal, that works for the cabal, obviously, but that is realizing the stuff we do is completely treacherous.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for one, am trying to tell you, keep talking about them. You can bring them down. They are way too powerful to bring down with weapons, or you're not going to get them identified per se, but you can get the ones who work directly for them, who have to work with humans, will eventually see that humanity is love. And that's the stuff, right? So they'll step forward and go, I'm going with humanity because it's going to win anyway. Love is going to win.
Bingo.
There's nothing that can stop it.
And we have to.
Exactly.
And you said, like we have to keep talking about them, right? Keep talking about it, even if it sounds like a broken record. Well, that's the way we were programmed in the first place.
Yep.
They kept repeating that lie. And so now we have to keep repeating the truth, because it's like reprogramming people like that.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep and I think you got to remember too, like, just remember when you were just starting to steep yourself in all of this stuff that you thought this something doesn't feel truthful here, and you start to look behind the curtain and you go, okay, well, I've just now found out one thing for sure, is I think there might be aliens. So you're back at that stage a few years ago where you're kind of like, huh, I got a couple questions here. The majority, my experience, the majority, and I'll just say Americans, but this is also with my friends who are physicists from different countries, who still they will absolutely not believe there are aliens, and I'm good friends with them, and they know I've written Hush. You have to remember that it's stages, and the smarter they are, the harder they fall. It takes longer.
Yeah.
It's easier to kind of talk about conspiracy and this, that, and the other, and kind of an average person will go, maybe, cool, yeah, it could be, there could be, yeah. But if they're a really smart person, just kind of naturally smart, a physicist type, brain, they so much have to see it to believe it, because they'll just say that's not physically possible. There's no way something could go by on a submarine radar that's above Mach speeds. It can't do it underwater. And I can say, dude, there are tons of Navy guys who have been on nuclear ships with shit going by, excuse the word S, with stuff going by at Mach speeds under the water. And he's like, well, show me, and I want to talk to the person. And of course you can't. I mean, you can say, well, okay, you're not willing to look at this research. No, I've got work to do.
Right.
But if you keep hammering it, at some point, enough of their friends who might not be physicists are going, what? You don't? And that's how it changes. It changes in subtle ways for all of us. I mean, right now, if I tell people the moon is not a planet, it doesn't rotate, it is not a moon. Every other moon on any other planet rotates.
It makes no sense.
Ours doesn't. It makes no sense. There's
As a
bases
moon.
on the backside of the moon. And I say that, and people just go, he's totally friggin' nuts.
Every
I'm
crater
good.
at the exact same depth.
I'm good. I'm good with it now. I'm obviously here on webisodes and writing books to say, no,
Well,
I'm a pretty smart guy. You don't have to believe me. I don't care if you do or not. I'm
Right.
trying to tell you that your actual reality might be slightly different than you're feeling right now.
right.
That's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to say.
And well,
Right.
that goes back to, so this is something I want to bring up because I see it virtually everywhere. Every time we post something, there's a number of comments, could be bots or trolls, but space is fake, the moon is a hologram, it's not even a physical body, blah blah blah. So and it's hundreds of thousands of people at this point are like pushing this narrative, and it's catching wind. What do you think's behind that? And what do you have to say to that?
Well, again, remember the cabal works both sides, and you're talking about intelligences that are much smarter than us. So what does it? Just think about. I'll kind of answer your question by asking you a question. What does it do to you hearing that? Does it confuse you?
Yeah. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Yep.
to somebody who's unaware, yeah.
And if you're the cabal, let's see if we can confuse Tyler. Let's just start a little thing here with the right people behind it that kind of says, the whole thing's a hologram. And then we'll also start on the other side that, oh no, the pictures of the backside of the moon, those are fake. And then we'll start another one that says, oh, there was no Apollo landing. Okay. And then we'll start another one. All it does is confuse you. And it's the same thing as looking at our government and trying to get answers. They want you to spin on that stuff. And this is what I mean by use your heart.
Yep. And that's what I have to say.
Feel, and don't get, this is the decoder of this.
Right.
Make that switch, and you'll find your research and all this other stuff coming in, AI and everything else. It's like, no, that doesn't feel real. And you get so fast at it. You get so good at starting here and letting this decode it that your heart knows right from the get-go, from the very second. When you talk to somebody, your heart goes, legit, not legit, something weird's happening. When you walk into a store and you sense an energy presence around you, that's your intuition.
Yeah.
Right. And does it feel more like a religion, or does it feel more like a bunch of actual truth seekers? Because to me, it feels way more like a religion, the flat earth thing, because you got everyone that believes in it is a zealot, and every social media is just constant, them banging on about it and like trying to force it down everyone's throats and making fun of people that don't believe in it. You name it. It's like and go back more than 10 years ago, any of us who have been around longer researching or waking up before basically 2015, it wasn't even, there was hardly anyone. If I didn't see a single flat earth thing before like 2014, I think.
But
And
check this
then
out,
it was
Aaron.
tiny, and then it ramped up in the few years after that, way more. And then all of a sudden, in the last 8 years is when it exploded. At the same time as all the YouTube videos start getting made
Yeah.
and thrown out everywhere. It's like you could see the push happen, and then everyone's who wakes up around that time, not everyone, but a lot of people who wake up only around that time where that's what they're seeing in their feed constantly. They're like, oh yeah, this must be it, because
But
the
check
trap
this
got
out.
them. The trap got
Check
them.
this out. You know all that information about the flat earth because you got into it. I'm not faulting you in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're spinning on this and kind of defending that it might not be real. And what I'm trying to get at is you and Tyler won't even spin off on stuff that you know. I mean, you might say, the flat earth thing just isn't my thing. And I'm not saying you guys are wrong, because
We're not going around constantly attacking.
Right. But the fact that you're kind of saying, like, and look, everybody does this. The fact that you're kind of saying, well, to me, it doesn't feel real, but you're clearly, you have watched it, you've watched it evolve. You hear people, you call it a religion, you this, that, and the other. If it's nothing to you, focus back on the things that are real to you two. Focus on the things that you want people to know about.
Right.
And if someone brings up the flat earth theory, fine. I mean, if someone tells me they believe in Sasquatch, I'm kind of open to everything now.
Right.
If it's something like flat earth, my heart just goes, it's just not for me. I have to go with what I know. And all I'm
But if you
saying
ask
is,
me, I'll tell you what I really believe about it. And that's the thing, is when it gets brought up on the show, we're like, okay, we're going to be honest about what we think it is. What we've seen,
Exactly. And I think, it's okay to address it and just to realize, like, you want to allow everybody over time to have their beliefs at wherever they are right now, because at some point, maybe not in this lifetime or maybe in this lifetime, they're going to go off planet and they're going to go, damn, that sure looks like a round ball.
Right.
It doesn't look very flat from here. It looks kind of round.
And then you have
to negate
every whistleblower, every insider, everyone who claims they've been into space, like we were just talking about, everything that points to this, everything about space.
There you go.
You got to throw all that out, because that can't possibly.
In other words, realize that is another cabal. Play both sides. Play a third side. Let's see if we can get Aaron caught up in that, and he'll waste some time on it.
Right. And cause division and arguing.
Exactly. So my point is, as best you can, use your heart and go, does that not feel real? Okay, I'm not going to waste too much time. I'll certainly address it if someone calls in for a split second, but I've got bigger topics that are important to me, like the secret space program and interviews and hard evidence for you guys.
Right. Yeah.
That are topics that are real.
Right.
And it's that dialogue that is hitting most of the shows that I'm on. There's not a lot of flat earth talk. I'm just saying that be careful what you use your heart and go, is this a cabal spin? Yeah, that's the third side of the same thing. This has nothing to do with anything, and I'm talking about it. They got me again. It's okay. Just be visual.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what I think we try to do. But at some points we get,
for sure,
we get asked about it, or we get all the trolls, or we get
We're
like, all right, we gotta address this. But we don't go around. We're not making posts all the time or videos all the time, trying to debunk it and trying to do this and that. It's like, we just stay in our own lane, and then like everything you just said.
It's important to understand that the psychological operations division of the military, and how they have a large team of people that are as paid to put out disinformation intentionally and in large capacities in the form of fake documents and even documentaries and YouTube.
And remember, it's above your military.
Above the
military.
Correct.
Is just the workers.
Correct.
But those
correct.
All of those psychological warfare things, you got to remember that most likely many of the top people that you're even seeing on media are most likely hybrids.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've seen the glitches,
Yeah.
and
If they've had the technology, just think about this. If America has had the technology to go into space clear back in the late 70s, now just imagine a millions years old race like the reptilians who can soul steal and then take over that avatar. They could take over me, steal my soul, put it in a beaker. So my body slumps, somebody pops in, it's a reptilian with a reptilian mindset. And now I'm one of the top guys in the military. And I'm saying, hey, we're going to start a new psychological thing here, and it's going to go like this. So just recall when you're talking about any of these, anything to do with the American government and the American military, I'm just saying, keep pointing higher and go, is it the American military? No. Is it a speaker from the American military? Yeah. Is he fully human? Don't know. Can't
right,
know it yet. But most likely, cabal directed. And if they've had the technology to come here before Homo sapiens evolved from Neanderthals, then just think about it. If you're taking over a planet, wouldn't you just soul steal some of the top media moguls and big pharma and all the people who control the planet, meaning the cabal? If you can soul steal the cabal and you're working things many years in advance, why would you just have individual humans still in the military? No, you would infiltrate the military. You'd infiltrate all of the military industrial complex so that you're controlling humanity telepathically. I mean, you're spreading the news the way you want it spread.
Right.
You're not relying on a human to just go, hey, I'm going to telepathically tell you what to do. I mean, it's just so much easier if you already have the technology to soul steal or
right,
create a hybrid.
Right. Like, we have to understand their means of operating in control is way beyond just this very simplistic way that many people assume it would be. Right. It's just like, oh
and
yeah, this is
Exactly.
gonna do it this.
Yeah. So even for me,
No.
I still, when I say that stuff, I'm like, oh, this just sounds so fantastical to me. But just like that feeling of like, damn it, how can I be hoodwinked? I'm too smart for this. But then if I just go with it and I go, okay, if they're that advanced to come here before we even arrive, before we even evolve, because they know we're going to evolve into love and they know we're unstoppable. They know it.
right,
So what do?
Right.
You go there early, you bring a moon, you put a frequency expander in the moon and you keep them in the third density and you keep them down and you keep them controlled.
damage control.
If they came
Right.
here millions of years ago with technology that they're clearly bringing here, that they're now doing illegal, breaking the prime directive trades with not only our government, but all governments, and to begin with the Nazis,
Right,
Mm-hmm.
you then have to go, okay, wait a minute. Of course they're going to be within humans. They're going to be infiltrated into humans because then they can control the general populace much easier. Why wouldn't they?
Right. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't
But
they?
when I say that, even for myself, I'm so conservative and I'm so skeptical by nature that I even go, what in the hell am I saying? But I know my heart goes, that's the truth.
right, right,
Right. It's like on X-Files when Scully goes, Mulder, do you realize how you sound right now? He's like, I don't care how it sounds. I care about the truth.
right,
That sums it up right there. It's like, you realize it sounds crazy to maybe the majority of people, but when you know it's the truth, you're like, well, it doesn't matter how it sounds. How it sounds is just based on the common paradigm that we've been sold, which is
Yeah.
mostly BS. So why would I care how it seems to that paradigm? If it's
Yeah.
the truth, it's the truth, right?
right.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
that's what we got. People who need to
Well,
wake
if
up
you,
to that. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
and,
It's a
and
ramp up for everyone. Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Everyone's
and
at a different place.
it's important too to understand like there's no lengths they won't go to, and I think people need to understand that because you have to understand the level of insanity we're dealing with, and like it's
Right.
quite literally insanity, like sociopathic, psychopathic, whatever word you want to use, There's no length they won't go to, and these narratives, they'll literally create these narratives, and then, like, we have to learn how to identify these false narratives, and like you said, the using your heart, that's something, like, I feel like I'm listening to myself talk when you say that, because I say that in every interview I do, because I've learned that your body knows how to, detect
It
that.
really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to know yourself before you can understand that, and you have to get to know your body and how it responds to this information. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's where we need to get. And I absolutely love that message. You just keep going back to the heart, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's your mind is going to overthink everything, and that's where you get confused. That's where they want you. Your heart and your gut,
Right.
knows immediately,
Yep.
knows
And it's
immediately without even
unstoppable.
thinking. Yeah,
You're coming with a force that, I mean, like I said, they can take you out. They can kill your avatar. They can silence your voice, but we're coming from, we're
right,
coming from big love, and we're bringing it, and that is unstoppable.
right.
Yes.
Situational awareness,
Exactly.
self-awareness, situational awareness.
I'll tell you guys a little secret that's kind of interesting. So I tell my good buddy Lincoln here, he's watching you guys from the side to make sure you're behaving. He's, I
Hey,
put
what's
him as
up?
I put him as my assistant, assistant, just because he's handling all of the connections with all these podcast hosts. But I told Lincoln, so I've worked with Lincoln producing movies for many years, and I'm a writer. I have never had the experience until Hush, where I knew undoubtedly I didn't write it. AI didn't write it. I wrote it. But I'm telling you guys, it's like a committee is delivering everything that's occurring here. And it's like the off-world benevolent aliens are going, "Hey, Michael, go write
You're
this book."
right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and 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 you're gonna be our little, I'm just saying, for my little message, Hush, and what I'm delivering and everything that's occurring here, all I can say is it's being directed.
Yeah. I agree. And there's
Totally.
as
Mhm.
much as we've, talked about the cabal, there is, there's light forces that are
Way higher forces than
yeah,
them.
that are
Absolutely.
helping us as well, and
Right.
they're behind the people that dropped into their heart, and that's
Yeah.
important to remember that we're not in this alone. There is an
Yeah.
opposing force, and it's just going to
Yeah.
be moves and counter moves, and that's just what the times look like, because it's all being undermined and uprooted, and it's going to be messy, because
Yep.
anything that needs to surface like that is just going to be messy.
Yep.
So it's nothing like, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to approach any of this information, as long as you're in the heart.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
So
you'll be fine as long as you keep the two separate and realize that the head is just the decoder of what
right.
you sense from love from your heart.
Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining
Same.
us today. I mean, this has been a treat.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I resonate with everything that you say. I mean, you're definitely on the right track as far as I'm concerned. Your book, I wish it the most success. Can you please tell people where they can find the book, and talk about maybe
Sure.
some of your film projects, and how
You
people can
bet. You
find
bet.
you? Yeah.
So you can go to mdselig.com, all the links for the book there. Audible should be out like literally in a minute. We turned it in about 10 days ago. It's 22 hours of audio. And I do all the damn voices, so you can
Yeah.
enjoy the show. It's pretty
That's
fun.
amazing.
I create all the characters. I used to do voiceover in LA, as well as doing acting. I was like in Zero Dark 30, and as an actor, Catherine Bigelow directed. She's phenomenal. But I had shows on Netflix. Southern Justice is on Showtime. There's a current show I have is a sci-fi pilot called The Gunrunner Billy Kane. It's on Amazon Prime right now. All those links, if you go to the website, it'll lead you to my Patreon page. There's all kinds of videos about Hush, what's in Hush, and I just want to thank both of you. It's just been such a pleasure to hang out. It's so awesome to see you guys bringing it, and I look forward to being back one of these days. We'll chat again, and we'll have some new information.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah, for
much.
sure.
And,
Thank you so much. Yeah.
we'll put those links in the description. Everyone go check out the book. And yeah, this is amazing. It's been really an honor to get to know you and to learn from you. And Definitely, I'll be reading your book, and this is something that I just, it's interesting when people put these fiction books out that have all this truth in it. And until you really meet the author, you don't know what's really driving that fiction,
Sure.
right? So now that I've spoken with you, I'm really, really excited to get into the book. And
Oh, fun.
I apologize, I haven't read it prior to this interview,
No,
but we
it'll take you a month to read it. You might want to do the Audible
we
because
I
then you
mean
can
we
ride
have
your bike and enjoy it.
the unfortunate
Yeah.
and fortunate thing about what we do is that I don't get to always research what I want
For
because I have
sure.
to research my guest or something else is taking up my time. So I can't read every
It's like,
book that everybody.
Yeah,
this
and
many books I
I
wanna
don't have
read,
any
and
I
this
don't have any misconceptions like, of the 50 podcasts I think I'm scheduled for, whatever, in the next month or so. I don't expect anybody to have read it. I mean, it's a big book. My sailing buddy's like, "It took me a month on my sailing trip, and I couldn't put it down, but it took me a month." And he's like, it was like one big movie. I loved it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's 600 pages. It's
Wow.
a lot."
Ooh,
And
that's hefty.
so that's why I'm saying it might be more audible where you guys can do runs and work out and go, "Okay, yeah, I'm up to chapter 12,"
Right. Sure. Sure.
Yeah, yeah,
a
for
little
sure.
easier.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for being here today. And
And
thank you
so
to the,
much enjoyed it, you guys.
yeah,
We'll
thank you to
talk
the,
we'll
Same.
talk again shortly.
yeah, thank you to the
Yeah,
audience for being
definitely.
here. We love you. Have a great evening and good night. Hey guys, Journey to Truth is going to Hawaii. Join us in 2026 for Journey to Truth's first ever vacation conference on the Big Island at the beautiful Queen Emma Community Center in Kona. Enjoy Hawaii as we travel to sacred sites and connect with our Lemurian past and reactivate the land. It's time to get our bodies moving and take a boots on the ground approach to the awakening. We'll also be making a trip to Volcano National Park to pay our respect to Pele, the goddess of fire. We'll then journey to the water for an ocean adventure with our multi-dimensional aquatic family. We'll gear up and head to the harbor as we set sail under the sun for an activating day on the water while we experience the Hawaiian ocean life like never before. Enjoy Hawaiian sunsets and walks on the beach while connecting with Soul Family and learning a few things from our amazing lineup of speakers. Aloha! Grab your ticket today at journeytotruth.online and join us for this once-in-a-lifetime activating getaway.